Well, let's see here. Are we working? Can anybody see or hear me right now? Well, hello. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Paleontologizing. Right now, I am in Madison, Wisconsin, on the University of Wisconsin campus. We're going to be taking a tour of the UW Geology Museum. So I hope you're ready for that. I've been here before, I think a couple of times, and it's a nice little museum. I think you're going to enjoy it. So I'm pretty excited. I hope you are too. Welcome Caravan, Claire Burr, Sazla Shakes, Morphosaurus, Texas Cryptid, Anima Confusa. How is everybody doing? It is great to see you here. Welcome. Heg Pets, Claire Burr, Hojo Cat, Polysaccharide Poppy, Inquisitor Hammond, Texas Cryptid. Hello, everybody. Great to have you here. Yeah. I hope everybody's having a lovely day so far. How are you doing? I'm gonna wait for a few more people to trickle in. The RTMP server issue seems to have resolved itself. So, yeah. Caveman, how are you doing? Good to have you here. Yeah. And, Invisible Monkey. No, I like Wisconsin. I don't know. I've been here a few times before. Yeah, my girlfriend in college was from this area. And when I'd come to visit her and her family, sometimes over like New Year's and stuff like that, would come here to the museum. So yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody. If anybody happens to be new here, I'd like to welcome you for the first time to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza, and I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. Now, you may know already, a paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils. I work on dinosaur fossils in particular. I explore for them with various museums, dig them up, study them, illustrate them, publish on them, and now I talk about them here on Twitch. That's, believe it or not, my full-time gig nowadays is to do science outreach here on Twitch. Normally I stream from my office back in the San Francisco Bay Area, but right now, for the past 3 weeks, and I guess maybe for the past month and a bit, or for the next month and a bit, I'm on a big road trip, going all across the U.S., visiting different museums, visiting field sites, visiting other paleontologists, and streaming whenever I can, try and bring you along for the ride. Later on in the summer, I'm even going to be working on a dinosaur dig, and I hope to stream that and show you what it's like to actually dig up dinosaurs with a crew of paleontologists. For right now, we're doing some museum streams. So again, Geology Museum at the University of Wisconsin, Madison. Kodali, how are you doing? Welcome. Yeah. What do you say we go ahead, walk to the front of the museum, and go ahead and start exploring. So here we are here in the capital city of Wisconsin. And what is that? Mass spectrometer. That's pretty cool. Not what we came here for, though. And sounds like we have a field trip. Fortunately, they are leaving, looks like. Cool. And here we are. Oop. We've got some lovely invertebrate fossils here. Some ripple marks with trackways. Very cool. Pretty neat stuff. Really cool. Ancient ripple marks. This is really neat. Just seeing something like you might see on a beach in the modern day, like when I go to, the beach in the Bay Area, Alameda Beach off of Oakland, you'll see ripple marks like this at low tide. And occasionally, if things shift and dry out, you actually get them preserved for millions upon millions of years. Pretty neat stuff. This is on display. These natural processes that we know extended into the past. And they're still happening today. That's kind of going to be the name of the game here at this museum. Very cool. And they've got this lovely spinning globe here, showing there's that rift in the middle of the Atlantic.
Hello,
right there, spreading right.
Jurassic Park. Let's protect our fossils.
America.
If they're removed,
There's the Hawaiian archipelago.
forever.
Look at all of these seamounts here. Very cool. Australia. Hello to all of my Aussie viewers there. Cool stuff. India and Sri Lanka. The vast continent of Africa. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. South America and back to North America. So shoot, I started off my road trip journey right here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've made my way all the way across up to Wisconsin. There we are now. It's been a long way. 2,700 miles so far, I think. So yeah. Lord Dunnett, you're enjoying the road trip? I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. Anyway, here is the Geology Museum. So this is a campus museum. This isn't going to be anything that's like overtly really flashy. It's not going to be the most high-tech of museums, but they've got some really cool specimens here, and I'm really excited to share them with you. Especially if you're into geology. There's a lot of very cool rocks and minerals. I, of course, am much more on the biological side of paleontology, so I can't tell you too much about the various rocks and minerals. But we can talk about the fossil critters, especially the dinosaurs, and there are some to see here. So I'm excited to show them to you. Yeah. How you doing, Hugo? Welcome. Good to have you here. All right. Let's journey in. Very cool. Oh, there's a neat thing about meteorites discovered in Wisconsin. What's the closest one to here? Kilbourne, I guess. Or maybe Mifflin. 1911, a 772-gram stony meteorite fell through a barn roof near what is today the Wisconsin Dells at 5 p.m. on June 16th, 1911. Now, at the Field Museum, I remember looking through the meteorite displays there, and there was a meteorite that fell through a barn roof and then through the cloth roof of a car. It was an old Model T or something like that, and embedded itself in the rear seat of the car. They had it there on display, and they had some photos. It was pretty cool. Yeah, very cool. And there are some of those meteorites cut open like that, so you can see the interiors. Cool stuff. Yeah, this is the one I was telling you about. Fell through a barn roof. Pretty neat. You'd never sleep again, Sasla shakes. Pretty cool stuff. I've explored for micrometeorites before. If you take a magnet, and you can do this at home, look for the downspout from the gutters on your roof, take a magnet and run it over the ground there. If there are any micrometeorites that have fallen onto your roof and then been washed down, they'll stick to the magnet. It's pretty cool how that works. Very, very easy to find. They're usually tiny, smaller than a grain of rice. But, it'll be a little rock that's made of iron, sticks to a magnet. That's how you know it's a micrometeorite. Cool stuff. Yeah.
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100 bits.
Very cool. All right. Oh, and thank you, Hector, for the 100 bits. Appreciate that. Let me sign the guest book here. This is important for museums like this to get funding. California. 627. There we go. Oh, and we've got a little interpretive guide here. I know a lot of this stuff already. Plate tectonics, finding and cleaning fossils. That's what we're after. Very cool. Well, we don't need that.
No, I was still looking.
Some lovely displays.
This
Some
is
minerals
it,
here.
That's all. You know, you can't own the rest. The rest is in a museum. The rest is actually where people learn.
Very cool. Check this out. This right here is not a fossil at all, even though you could be forgiven for thinking it is. These are dendrites. So sometimes when you have like different planes in a rock, they like separate a little bit and other minerals can kind of work their way into there. They kind of spread out in this sort of tree-like pattern. That's where the name comes from, dendrites. Just like that. Pretty cool. I've seen stuff like this, but made of gypsum in the field. Sometimes, like in the Hell Creek Formation, when we're digging up, say, a triceratops, the rocks are always kind of slightly expanding and contracting as things heat up in the summer and contract in the winter. And it can create, like, little tiny little gaps. And sometimes minerals like gypsum can work their way into there and kind of spread out, and you can get cool dendritic patterns like this. Usually not as dramatic and beautiful as this, but still, yeah, cool stuff. Very cool. Yeah, pretty neat.
Ready?
Yeah. Your museum rocks, 80 people. Well, yeah, there you go, Cassie K. Very cool. This is always neat seeing just certain elements in their raw form. Like that. Copper, gold nuggets from California. Sulfur from Italy. Graphite. So the lead in your lead pencil, your number 2 pencil, is not actually lead. Pencil lead is made of graphite. This right here. Very cool mineral. Very useful. Also pretty flammable, as I recall. Right. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of those nuclear meltdowns with the graphite rods catching fire or something. There's pyrite right here. Very cool. Yeah, fool's gold. Really neat. And check this out. Holy moly. A copper nugget, a glacial erratic, 1,300 pounds, from Houghton, Michigan. Or Houghton, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to say Houghton. Anyway, pretty neat. So, if any of you have ever seen in person or in pictures or in movies the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor, you know that she has that kind of bluish-greenish hue to her. That's because she's coated with copper, and copper oxidizes. The oxygen in the air turns it this interesting kind of bluish-greenish color. Yeah, but this is pretty neat. A glacial erratic. So a glacial erratic means that this was carried along by a glacier, transported for probably miles, maybe hundreds of miles. Glaciers are like amazing agents of change on the landscape. They can carve out valleys, they can steepen mountains, they can do all kinds of really cool erosional things, but they also transport stuff. So this 1,300-pound lump of copper was carried by a glacier. Very slowly. Would have taken weeks, months, years, maybe decades. Maybe more. But yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. You could make a lot of pennies out of it. There you go, DNH. Yeah, and glaciers made Long Island, New York. That's true. And the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes, what are they? Michigan, Superior, Huron, and Erie. Were all made by glaciation. There's the front, there's the back. Very cool. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. And hey, Dinosaur Dave, how you doing? Welcome. Yeah, touring the Geology Museum at the University of Wisconsin. And as you can see, a lot of the displays are kind of getting up there in age. lot of these were put together back in the 80s or maybe the 90s, but they're still really well done. Pretty informative. They've got, I mean, it's all about the specimens, really. And they have some beautiful specimens here, including some lovely fossils. Looks like we've got some, this might be brachiopods in there. They don't look quite like bivalves. They're probably brachiopods. And this lovely fossiliferous limestone. I wonder where that's from. Very cool. Pretty neat. Limestone itself is made from the calcareous shells of marine invertebrates. So if, I don't know, you might have some buildings near you that are made of limestone. Those buildings are made of fossils. There's a bunch of like state capitol buildings and stuff like that here in the U.S. That are largely constructed of limestone. Those buildings are made of fossils. It's cool to think about. Yeah. Hike the Earth says, love the library voice. Thank you, Hike the Earth. Well, welcome. I don't know, it seems appropriate in a museum like this. I'm not gonna shout and be obnoxious. Yeah. Very cool. This is pretty cool. I've talked about this a little bit. When I did a live stream from Lake Tahoe last summer, I talked about the formation of the Sierra Nevada mountains. That's this process right here. So you've got oceanic plates that are subducting underneath the continental plates. So you've got land, you've got ocean, and you've got a plate margin there. So the seafloor is actually plunging below the land, and as it does that, as it goes down into the Earth's mantle in the subduction zone, it's kind of melting, and then that stuff heats up, and it like puts pressure going upward, and you can get volcanism on the coast like you see there, but you also get mountain building. So all of that heat, it's got to go somewhere. Heat rises up, and that can cause orogeny, that can cause mountains to build up. That's why we have the Sierra Nevada mountains between California and Nevada. That's why we have the coastal California mountain ranges too. You can see those in places like San Francisco, Santa Cruz, San Luis Obispo, places like that. Very cool. Yeah. But yeah. And hey, Jandra, how are you doing? Welcome. Let's see, can we go around this way? Or is it a dead end? Okay, yeah. Here, we'll go around. We might also put our camera to the test here with a blacklight display, fluorescent minerals and fossils. All right, let's see. Oh, very cool. Okay, so here are some fluorescent minerals and fossils. There's a beautiful ammonite right there. Holy cow, and that's not a jaw of an extinct rhinoceros. That looks like part of the skull. That's not dual dentaries, that's something else. Anyway, it says push button and release. Okay. Check that out. Are you picking this up right now? Very cool. Look at all that. Pretty neat. Even the ammonite is fluorescing a little bit. Super cool. Wow. Very, very neat. Look at that. Pretty awesome stuff. Hyalite. Isn't hyalite the same thing as salt? Down there. Very cool. Very, very cool. Wow, these are particularly neat. I love the... Oh, halite. That's salt. Sorry. Halite is salt. Fluorescing orange like that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, and highlight is a crystalline site. Oh, okay. Thank you, Xander Jiggles. Who?
You don't need to flash in there because you're going to see something that glows in the dark.
And look, this is, I think after the black lights are turned off, it's still reflecting that light. Still fluorescing. Very, very cool. Really neat. Holy cow. Pretty amazing. Here, we'll go off in this direction here. How cool was that? How cool was that? See, this is why I bring you here. Again, not the flashiest museum in the world, but very, very cool. Yeah. And hello, Science Streams. How are you doing? It is great to have you here. Yeah. Hope you're doing well. Shoot, if anybody is new here, if anybody came in with, was that a raid from Belinda? Let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. Right now I'm on a big road trip going all across the U.S., visiting different museums, field sites, talking to other paleontologists. We're here at the University of Wisconsin Museum of Geology right now. And just saw some really cool fluorescent minerals. I don't actually know why they fluoresce, but looks like somebody here. Thank you, Claire Burr. I appreciate that. I'm neither a chemist nor a mineralogist. So yeah. Oh, Belinda didn't raid. Okay, thank you, Smorphosaurus. Well, it's good to have you here, Belinda. Thank you for the host. I appreciate that. Very cool. Oh, and this is neat. A glacial hitchhiker from Copper Country, rather. Neat. So this was also transported here by a glacier.
It doesn't make a sound. It's going to turn off the light. No. Can you look at me? Look at me. I don't wait for me. Look at me.
Pretty neat.
Look at me. Person might never lie to you. Let me finish.
Should we go into this cave? Let's check this out.
If you want, you can be like, I'm not light or the flashlight and buy me.
Yes.
Okay. Push and let go.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Alright. We're gonna leave them to do their thing. Let's check this out. Earth's oldest rocks.
How cool is that? I knew that was going to happen. I looked it up.
Very cool. And Miracle Schmirgle. Wait, what? Hang on a sec. Fernbank Museum of Natural History. Where is that, Miracle Schmirgle? I'm not sure where that is. But yeah. There you go, Lone Mountain. Not going to disturb the cave trolls. Yeah. All right, let's read this display real quick. Before we get into our fossils and everything, gotta eat our geological vegetables first. So let's talk about some of the oldest rocks on planet Earth. Because by examining Earth's most ancient rocks, geologists get a glimpse of what our planet was like shortly after it formed. The rocks in this case tell us Earth had oceans 4.3 billion years ago, and possibly life as early as 3.8 billion years ago. I think that's recently been revised. We think life is like almost 4 billion years old now at this point. These important discoveries influence how and where astrobiologists look for life elsewhere in the universe. Very cool. So we've got some of the oldest rocks in the upper Midwest here in the US and Canada. Some down in South America there. 3.8 billion year old rocks in Greenland. I think Australia is supposed to have the oldest, right? Yeah, there we go. The oldest piece of Earth. 4.4 billion years old in Australia. Within the Jack Hills metaconglomerate are tiny zircon crystals. Zircon is a very durable mineral that can be radiometrically dated, so geologists can tell when it formed. We actually use zircons in dating dinosaurs sometimes. If we can find zircon crystals near a dinosaur skeleton, especially if we can bracket a dinosaur skeleton with that above and below the dinosaur skeleton and find zircons, we can get a clear picture of when that critter lived. Zircon is a very durable mineral that can be radiometrically dated, so geologists can tell when it formed. Although this particular rock is 3 billion years old, the zircons inside of it can be much older. Within this rock, thousands of zircon grains have been found that are more than 3.5 billion years old. The oldest of which is 4.4 billion years old. These small crystals give us a glimpse of what Earth was like soon after it formed, 4.56 billion years ago. Previously, scientists thought that for its first half-billion years, the Earth's surface was covered by oceans of lava. However, the chemistry of these zircons suggests Earth had continents forming and liquid water on its surface as long as 4.34 billion years ago. Cool. This means life could have emerged earlier than was previously thought. So check that out. This is from the Archean Eon of Australia. These are some of the oldest rocks on planet Earth. Pretty extraordinary. Or at least the zircons within are some of the oldest things on planet Earth. Pretty cool. Really extraordinary. Yeah. Very, very cool. Neat stuff. Yeah. Just imagine that. 4 billion years old. Pretty extraordinary. Yeah. And Mirgle Schmirgle. I'm not sure. I think the Appalachians are I thought they were like Permian or Triassic in age. I didn't think they were that old. I think some of the rocks within those mountains are that old. But the actual orogenic event, yeah, what was that called? The, something supergroup, series of like volcanic eruptions and uplifts that happened. I forget, yeah. I think the mountains themselves are younger, but the rocks that comprise them are older. Yeah, very cool. Pretty neat. Oh, Sudbury impact. The city of Sudbury, Ontario sits in a shallow basin and is home to one of the richest mining districts in the world. But 1.85 billion years ago, it was a crash site for one of the largest objects to ever hit our planet. The copper, nickel, and gold mined there today formed from a lava that filled the crater. Very cool. When the impact happened, all life on Earth was microscopic. It would be, I don't know, 500 million years, give or take. Well, no, not quite that old. It would be a while, at least, until we had, like, complex multicellular life. Yeah. Cool stuff. And here's a sample. So this rock was found near Thunder Bay, Ontario. Towards the bottom, you can see thin layers of stromatolite. Ah, very cool. So those are colonial bacteria that form these neat bacterial mats. Stromatolites are fascinating fossils. Again, they're not super charismatic like dinosaurs, but they can tell us a lot about the history of the Earth and kind of how life began here. So yeah. Oh, and cool, Muriel. Let's see. Yeah, where is the Fernbank Museum? Let me know. Alright, Rooms of Astrobiology. Oh, not letting us smell those right now, but that's okay. Cool stuff. And then we get some of our first fossils. Yes! Yeah, and this is true. It says, say the word fossil, and most people think of bones, teeth, or shells, which are called body fossils, or possibly footprints, nests, burrows, or feces, trace fossils. However, the oldest fossils on Earth are invisible to the naked eye. They are 3.8 billion years old, chemical traces in rocks from Greenland that are detected through laboratory analysis. I think we actually have fossil traces like this that are 4 billion years old now. But yeah, I think it's a little controversial though. Very cool. So within rocks like these are some of the first traces. Oh, and there's a stromatolite right there. You can see the layers. Those are layers of bacteria that built up over time. Very cool. And we still have stromatolites around today. Like, this is probably Shark's Bay in Australia? Yeah, there you go. Shark Bay on the west coast of Australia. Yeah. Very cool. I think this is an area where it's so saline, it's so salty that the normal critters that would eat stromatolites, things like snails and stuff, can't survive there. So yeah. Very cool. So about roughly 2.5 billion years ago, give or take a few 100 million years, I don't know, the great oxygenation event started to happen. Stromatolites and photosynthetic bacteria, single-celled organisms like this, became so numerous and started producing so much oxygen as a waste product, they eventually oxygenated the atmosphere over tens, maybe hundreds of millions of years. But they basically changed the chemistry of the atmosphere and made it possible for critters like us to evolve. Pretty neat. And here is a lovely fossil stromatolite. Again, you can see those layers there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So the air that you're breathing right now, this very moment, you owe it to critters like these, stromatolites. Again, they're not the most charismatic of fossil critters, but they are very, very important. Don't forget that. Pretty cool. Alright. Some stuff about Mars exploration. That's cool. Here's a piece of Mars, looks like. This fragment here comes from the Tissant meteorite, which landed in Morocco in 2011. It's only the 5th Martian meteorite that has been witnessed falling to Earth. This glassy black rock formed in a volcano on Mars about 600 million years ago and was launched from the planet's surface almost 1 million years ago when an asteroid collided with it. So you're looking at a piece of the planet Mars right here. How cool is that? Very, very cool. Yeah. Neat stuff. Very, very cool. When you tuned in today, did you think you were going to see a piece of Mars? Pretty cool. Neat stuff. Here. Oh, you're good. No, you're fine. Check this right here. We've got a petrified tree stump from South Dakota. Although this, according to what we learned at the museum in Rapid City, this would not actually be petrified. This would be fossilized. Because in order for it to be considered petrified, the original interior structure has to be replaced by minerals and just kind of wiped out. This, you can still see some of the original wood grain and stuff like that. So this is more fossilized wood. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Very, very cool. Speaking of fossil plants, let's take a look at these. Now, before coming here, I stopped at a botanical garden here in Madison, which was beautiful. It was really lovely. So, some of these plants look very similar to the ones that I saw just an hour ago there, including these beautiful fern-like plants. We still have plants like that today, even though those are about probably 350 million years old. Some more right there from the Pennsylvanian period.
These are all meteorites too.
Very cool. Here's some extinct horsetails. Look at that. Ah, just gorgeous. Exquisite. Very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah, and Ulbrich. Yeah, Dougie Fresh. That's exactly where I was. The Ulbrich Conservatory. It was wonderful. They had so many species of cycads there. I was so excited. They had like almost all of the cycad genera. Zamia, Ceratozamia, Encephalartos. I don't think I saw any Lepidozamia. Or any cycads for that matter. Diune. They had a bunch of them, which was very cool. I think there's like 5 or 6 extant cycad genera, and they had, I don't know, at least 4 or 5. It was very cool. Oh, and there, that is a cone, rather 2 cones, one intact, one cut in half, of Araucaria. So these trees, somebody look up monkey puzzle tree and pull up the Wikipedia article for that. Post a link in chat. This is that same kind of plant right here. And they go all the way back to the Jurassic, maybe even the Triassic period. They're very old. They're kind of a quintessential Mesozoic conifer tree. So they lived alongside the dinosaurs and got munched on by dinosaurs. I think we even have direct evidence of that through by looking at coprolites, fossil feces of dinosaurs. Pretty cool. And that's the national tree of Chile today. The monkey puzzle tree, Araucaria araucana. Very cool. Yeah. There's some scales from lepidodendron. Very cool. Fossil palms. There's some petrified wood. You see how the interior, like wood grain, is just completely replaced by minerals, just obliterated? That's true petrification right there. So this would be more fossilized wood. That would be more petrified wood, according to that definition that we learned in Rapid City, which I'd have to talk to a paleobotanist to see if that's really true. But yeah. Oh, and speaking of cycad plants, like we just were, here is another beautiful extinct cycad. We've been seeing a bunch of these on this trip. This one again is from the Black Hills of South Dakota, probably from the now defunct Cycad National Monument. And look at these. These, I think, are brachiopods, which are now extinct. This is a kind of like ancient invertebrate, like a clam, but distinctly different. I don't think these are bivalves. I think these are brachiopods. They've got like a different setup here, where the two halves would join with each other. But very, very cool. Such a neat set of displays. This is pretty cool. Here's some sponges and corals. Now, when people think of animals, they don't often think of sponges and corals, but they are indeed animals. Don't you forget it. Yeah. Up here are some impressions of stranded jellyfish. Very cool. So sea jellies are difficult to fossilize, but they can leave impressions. We can tell that that's what was there, which is pretty neat. Yeah, very, very cool. I wonder if they'll have some Petoskey stones here, like up in Michigan. Very neat. Look at these. So these are different bivalves. Oh, I guess they were bivalves then and not brachiopods. Shoot, I was wrong. Very cool. It looks like a big old ammonite that got covered with those oysters after it died. That's pretty interesting. This guy's setting up shop there. Yeah. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Turritella, this is a very famous fossil. Yeah. From the Miocene of France. Really cool snails. And some of these guys are really big. Look at that. Very cool. Here, I'll just give you some scale. Pretty big. Pretty big. And Teredo shipworms. Yeah. Pretty cool. I like that there's love for the invertebrates here, you know? It's not all about dinosaurs all the time. As a dinosaur paleontologist, I gotta check myself and make sure that I'm, giving due respect to the inverts as well. Check out that gorgeous ammonite. Wow. Holy cow. The chambers are partially filled with gold-colored calcite crystals from the late Cretaceous of Madagascar. Check that out. Super, super cool. So we can use this to talk a little bit about the biology of ammonites. So these guys, they basically be kind of like an octopus or a squid, but in this coiled shell like that. So you'd have the tentacles kind of coming out right there. Tentacles, arms, whatever you'd like to call them. And as the animal grows, the shell also grows. They start off I think relatively small, very, very small. They might even be like planktonic when they're first born. And then they grow larger and larger. They're taking in food, grabbing stuff with those arms, pulling it toward the mouth and eating it. And as they grow, their shells also grow. And they start adding on these new chambers. So you see how they start off very small in the center? And then it's almost like every set amount of time they build a new chamber and then they move the body into that. And the rest of these are, I assume, filled with fluid, maybe filled with air, and they can kind of use that for buoyancy, almost like the ballast tanks on a submarine. Very cool. It makes me wonder if ammonites, like modern cephalopods, also had very short lives. So like an octopus today will only live like a year or maybe 2 years for the largest of the octopus. And they only reproduce once in their life and then they die. It makes me wonder if ammonites did the same thing. Some of them are spectacularly large. They can be like 2 meters across. Surely they wouldn't reach that size in just a year, right? I don't know. But yeah, very cool. Oh, yeah, and there's a drawing of one right there. An Adamiva nautiloid cephalopod. So nautiloid is like, that's the term for that whole group that ammonites also belong to. Very cool. Super neat. And here, of course, is a prep lab here. And what are they working on there? Oh, you can see they've got a little baby myosaur cast, tyrannosaur tooth cast. And what is that? Interesting. Is that looking at the surface on that, that might be a temnospondyl. In fact, yeah, they've got a temnospondyl right there with those googly eyes. That's gotta be what that is, yeah. Very, very cool. Now you can see the eye socket there. So temnospondyls, we talked about these guys a little bit at the museum in Rapid City. These are big old amphibians. They're sometimes called, like the toilet seat cover-headed amphibians. Because they have these big, flat, rounded heads. Like that right there. And I wonder, based on the coloration and everything, I wonder if that's from the Chinle Formation. That looks pretty similar to some of the stuff that I helped catalog at Berkeley. You've got this kind of reddish, iron-rich, matrix around it. So these guys, their heyday was in the Triassic period, around the time that the first dinosaurs were really starting to come into their own, before they fully took over the world, But, temnospondyls, really, really cool. And I like that fun use of googly eyes there. Staring at you. That's pretty nice. I like that a lot. Yeah. And science terms, so those are for dust collection. Those tubes right there. So you can tell this is a well-provisioned prep lab. This, of course, is the sort of place where fossils get cleaned after they're brought back from the field. So like that temnospondyl or that... What is that? Looks like a big old ilium from something. Big flat bone like that. It's not a scapula. Doesn't look like part of a vertebra. I bet you that's from the hips. I bet you that's an ilium right there. Pretty cool. We've got various chemicals in there in those dropper bottles. So they've probably got some Vinac and other consolidants. They probably have some accelerants for other kinds of glue. Cool stuff. And yeah, these tubes are for dust collection. So when you're working on a fossil like this, like this guy is doing right there, he's got an air scribe in his hand. And now he's gluing something that looks like he's got some cyanoacrylate maybe. Very cool. When you're working on a fossil like that, you're generating a lot of dust and little particles. And in order to help keep the lab clean, and in order to help you concentrate on your work and not just have dust everywhere, it helps to have dust collection equipment. So those tubes all lead up to basically a big old vacuum kind of a deal. with a big dust compactor in the middle. And yeah, we had one at Museum of the Rockies, one at UCMP. I've worked with those before. Emptying them out is always fun. And sometimes they've got like a big thumper thing on the inside to like get the dust out of the filters. It goes, and then you pull it all out and you dump it in the trash. Yeah, cool stuff. So and I love that flag that they have back there, the skull and crossbones with the Camarasaur skull, those long necks, late Jurassic sauropods. Very cool. And yeah, it is very dusty work, Timber. It is indeed. Very cool. Very, very cool. Wow, neat stuff. Neat stuff. We've got a lovely ammonite right here. Holy cow. Well, the clam stuck on it. Must be after the critter died. The clam decided to set up shop there. We've got... Oh, this is not a cast, that's real. Jurassic ammonite. Again, these guys get big. Like, this one's bigger than my head. But there are ones that are bigger than my whole body. They get like 2 meters across, like more than 6 feet. Pretty cool. Yeah. And up there, yeah, Endoceros. Very cool. So, of course, we've got cephalopods that are coily like this. Not all of them are. Some of them just go long and straight, like Endoceros right here. From the Ordovician of Dane County, Wisconsin. Yeah, there's a place called Cave of the Mounds near Blue Mounds, Wisconsin, also in Dane County, not too far from here, in the same county that we're in right now. And very cool limestone cave. If you ever get a chance to visit, check it out. It's neat. They've got a big fossil of one of these guys embedded in the ceiling. A big, long, straight nautiloid like that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. And the largest of those could be, I think, close to 20 feet. Things like Orthoceras could get really, really big. Yeah, neat stuff. Dougie Fresh, I'm only in the Madison area today. Yeah. Going to Illinois tomorrow. Or tonight, actually. Yeah. We've got, the Burgess Shale. Very cool. We've talked about the Burgess Shale many times on this channel before. And holy cow, Evo Lozzie, thank you so much for resubbing. I really appreciate that, Evo. Welcome back to Paleontologizing. How have you been doing? How have your streams been? It's good to see you here. Now, the Burgess Shale. Evo, you know about the Burgess Shale. This is really, really important to us as paleontologists. Yeah, the Burgess Shale is really famous because there's this kind of sudden explosion of life. Now we realize it's kind of a preservational thing. It's not like life suddenly comes into existence there. Complex, multicellular shelled life. It had been around for a while, it just didn't always get preserved. There's a site from China, the Xinjiang biota, which is older than the Burgess Shale, and I think equally cool. But the Burgess Shale is just, I don't know, it's really famous. And, yeah. We've got all kinds of really bizarre, interesting critters in it. Things, some of which, like, don't really belong to any modern groups. See some of them here. There's Morella, which is an early trilobite-type critter. And then there's another trilobite, a true trilobite from the Burgess Shale. Very cool. Ogigopsis. What a fun name. And here's Anomalocaris. Holy cow. There is the mouth part of Anomalocaris. Anomalocaris is a funny story. We now know the critter looked like this. But, because we've got specimens that are more or less intact now, but when it was first found, we only had bits and pieces, and those bits and pieces were found separated, and they were given different names. They were thought to be whole animals unto themselves. And one of them was this weird kind of circular mouthpiece. It almost looks like a pineapple slice or something. pineapple ring. So that's the jaws. The jaws kind of operate on the same principle as like a camera shutter. They go like, or like, you know how a camera shutter works. It works like that. Yeah, really cool.
Dinosaurs lived a long time ago. They were
And
terrible
this is
lizards,
one of those
don't you know?
finger-like appendages on the front. This is where the name Anomalocaris comes from. The name means strange shrimp, because this was originally thought to be a shrimp-like creature, and it turns out, nope. That is just one of those weird kind of limb-like things at the front of the head. Those are probably feeding appendages. It would probably capture its prey with that and pass it up into the mouth and chomp down on it. Very cool. Very, very cool. So, this is the largest creature in the Burgess Shale that we know of.
With
And it's about
sincere
a meter long.
appreciation
Gets,
and
you know, just over
gratitude,
3 feet,
thank
I
you
think.
very much for the 100 bits.
Most of the other critters in this environment are much smaller. Like this. This might not look particularly important. That little critter there, you could just barely make it out on the surface of that rock. But Pikaia is extraordinarily important to you and me, because this is one of the earliest chordate ancestors. So the ancestor of all creatures
Mrs.
with a
Fina just
backbone.
changed things with those 5 gift
So,
subs.
you and me and
With
every
sincere appreciation
frog
and
and
gratitude,
lion
thank you
and-
very much for the 100 bits.
and snake and bat and tuatara, all descended from something that would have looked kind of like this, Pikaia. Pretty neat. We now don't think that this is actually the direct ancestor of us chordates, us backboned animals, but it's pretty close. There's another critter from that biota in China that I was talking about, the Xinjiang biota, and that one's called Hycoichthyes, and that one almost looks like a little fish. That is probably much closer to our ancestry than Pikaia is. Pikaia is probably a little branch that kind of came off. But, yeah, you'll still see this in a lot of textbooks and stuff as kind of the ancestor of the chordates. Oh, yeah. Pretty neat. Yeah. But yeah, and Paleozoic fauna, they're so weird and alien. I agree, Miracle, I agree. Yeah. So look, this is neat. Those are fossil trackways. Something was scooting along the bottom of the ocean or a river or lake. Not a river. River would be too energy intense to preserve something like this, but yeah. Something was scuttling along there, leaving these traces. And apparently it's an unknown animal, according to the sign. Climacticnites. Trace fossils like this will get names. They'll get scientific names. Ichnotaxa is what we call them. We don't necessarily know what creature made them, but in order to be able to talk about them in a scientific context and not get confused, it helps to give it a name. So this one's
Though
called
it may not seem
Climacticnites.
like much, 500 bits
Very cool.
goes a long way
Track of an unknown
towards
animal
supporting
crawled
science
across the
up
sandy
here
bottom of an
on
ocean
Trish.
that covered parts of North America some 500 million years ago. And I like how the provenance just says Wisconsin ? It's probably one of those really old specimens that was donated from a private collector and they didn't have good provenance date on it. Pretty cool. There's some beautiful big old trilobites there from Morocco. They get even bigger than this. Again, I'll put my head there for scale. There are trilobites that are like a meter long. I think ones from the late Permian might be some of the largest. They get really, really big.
Oh my god, it's so close.
We got some fossil shrimps. Very cool. There's a fossil crayfish right there. Just like a modern one from the late Jurassic. Got some more trilobites here. I love those ones with the kind of ram horns that come off the top like that. That's pretty neat. And those are eyes on that trilobite. That is incredible. I did not know that. Very cool. Usually trilobites just got little button eyes toward the front of the head. This guy, for whatever reason, needed eyes on stalks and evolved that. Pretty cool. And then we've got a fossil lobster from Montana. Yeah, this has got to be from the Bear Paw Shale, I would imagine. Kind of famous for its fossil lobsters and ammonites and stuff like that. Yeah.
I feel like it's not how you're gonna die. It's almost certainly not.
Fossil crab there from Italy.
This is so cool. What's sea lily?
From Verona, Italy. There's a Verona, Wisconsin that's right nearby here. But this one's from Verona, Italy. Check out these beautiful trilobites down there. And that is my very favorite trilobite. Classic trilobite from the Devonian, Phacops. That is just the most trilobite-y of trilobites, I think. And they're really cool because they can roll up into a ball like that. Some of them are preserved there. Maybe they died in a mudslide or something, or I don't know. What would cause them to roll up before getting preserved? Maybe that's like a, I don't know, rigor mortis kind of a deal. I don't know. I don't know enough about these guys. You know, I'm not an invert paleontologist.
Oh wow. That's
Very cool.
really nice. Oh wow.
Pretty neat.
Cool. I like the Nautilus show. I'm a big fan.
Let's check out some of these echinoderms. Very cool. It looks like a brittle star. It is a brittle star. Very cool. And that's neat. You can tell the direction of flow
With crystals. He's like his own geo.
of the current back then, because all the appendages are going in that direction. So you know the water was flowing this way. Pretty cool. Really neat. Very, very cool. Oh, and there are... Oh, from right here in Wisconsin. Those are sea lilies. Crinoids. Very, very cool. So there are still members of this group that are alive today. They're not very common anymore, but they are still around. They look like that. Pretty cool. So that's not a plant. That's an animal related to sea stars and things like that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's really neat to find an intact one. I found tons and tons of little segments from their stems, from their stalks. Because after they die, oftentimes they just fall apart. Pieces would go everywhere. But occasionally, if you're very, very lucky, you find an intact one like that. And if you're even more lucky, you find a gigantic slab with hundreds of them. Right here. Just astonishing. Look at these. Yeah. Very cool. And Manadano, how are you doing? Thank you for the raid, and welcome to Paleontologizing. If anybody is not yet following Manadano, check out their channel. Welcome to the Geology Museum on the campus of the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin, USA. If anybody's new here, let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. We're going to see some dinosaurs in just a minute here. And I do science outreach here on Twitch. Normally I'm talking fossil news, talk about new publications as they come out. My whole point here is to try and give you an inside glimpse into what it's like to do paleontology, show you how fossil science works. Right now, I'm in the midst of this great big road trip going all across the U.S., visiting different museums and field sites, and I'm even going to be digging up some dinosaurs in Utah later on this summer, and I'm going to be doing it live on stream if the equipment works like it's supposed to. We'll see if Starlink is all that it's cracked up to be. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, cool stuff. Just admiring these crinoids here. This is incredible. Yeah. A complete colony of free-floating crinoids. Oh, so these are non-stalked crinoids. Very cool. So they'd just be floating around like a sea jelly or a Portuguese man of war or something like that. Yeah. Pretty neat stuff. Yeah. Very cool. From the late Cretaceous. I did not know that they were that common in the Cretaceous. That's pretty cool. When I think of crinoids, I think Paleozoic, but Well, shoot, they would have to have existed in the Mesozoic, too, to make it to today. So, yeah. Neat stuff. Yeah. Very, very cool. Now, from that, we're going to move on to our vertebrate animals. Things that, I don't know, are much more closely related to you and me, like these fishes here. We've got some really lovely ones. I love fossil fishes. There's a certain charisma to them. A lot of these are from the Green River Formation in Wyoming, like we saw at the museum in St. Paul. Very cool. And here is one from the Green River. This fish died while attempting to swallow a smaller fish. Check that out. It may have actually swallowed it and choked on it, and then post-mortem it slipped out the front. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And here is an ancient bowfin relative from Brazil. Very cool. Check out those teeth on the front. Holy moly. Very, very cool. Yeah. And look at those beautiful scales. Just exquisite. Very cool. And then, at our museum in St. Paul, actually a few museums before that too, we saw Xiphactinus. This is the skull of that fish right there. And we can get up close and personal with it, which is pretty cool. So this is an enormous fish, big old ray fin fish that lived alongside the dinosaurs about 90 million years ago here in North America. This one is from Logan County, Kansas. Yeah. Pretty formidable fish. Check out those teeth on it. So, superficially resembles something like a tarpon today. But I don't think they're related to tarpon at all. Very cool. We've got a lovely ray right here. Cool. Oh, and a placoderm fish. Very neat. Bothriolipus. That's a replica right there, but still really cool. So this is a jawless fish. It takes fish a while to develop jaws like we have today. It used to just be like a hole at the front of the head. So we call those agnathan fishes. And there's still some that are around today. Think about lampreys or hagfish. Those are some of the last living agnathan fishes. But yeah, that's kind of a stage of evolution that fish passed through at the beginning. Almost all agnathan fish were replaced by jawed fishes, like our Xiphactinus here. Yeah, because jaws, turns out, are just a really good idea. I don't know, they're a good thing to have. And here's some megalodon teeth right here. Very cool. Yeah, from South Carolina. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Yeah. And Ambervic says, could jawless fish close their mouths? They could not. It was just a constant opening at the front of their head. Yeah, jaws are what allow the fishes to actually close their mouths. So it helps with feeding. It also helps with streamlining their bodies, so they don't just have they're not just like a living windsock. Yeah. Jaws were pretty important innovation for early fishes. Cool stuff. And look at that. Oh, that is beautiful. Look at that. Priscacara serrata, an extinct perch. Gorgeous. Look at the spines on it. Just beautiful. What a classic looking fossil fish. So, and these are from the Eocene period. These ones here, Green River fishes. So they were from about 10 or 15 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs, except for birds. Well, yeah. Maximum Darnage says closing your mouth seems beneficial. I would agree. Yeah. How did the food not just slip out? I bet it often did, Ambervix. I bet it often did. One of the advantages to having jaws, Yeah. And Norphila Horace says, what about coelacanths? What about coelacanths? I don't know if we have any here. That might be related to... Well, no, not quite. But yeah, coelacanths have jaws. Coelacanths are actually really, really interesting in that they're pretty close to the origin of tetrapods. So a coelacanth is actually more closely related to you and me than it is to any of these fishes. Coelacanths are basically part of the branch of the fish family tree that land-living vertebrates come from. You know, amphibians and later reptiles and mammals and eventually dinosaurs and birds. So yeah, we don't have any... I don't think we have any fossil coelacanths here. But we do have something... amphibians or reptiles. This is cool. Discosariscus is what this critter is called, apparently. Very cool. And here's Seymoria. I've seen this cast a zillion times. I could probably 3D print one of these. I bet you I could find the files online. But this is a reptilomorph from the Permian period. So, you know about Dimetrodon, everybody. That sailback Permian synapsid. This is probably one of Dimetrodon's favorite foods. Seymoria. Lived at the same time in the same place. The early Permian of Texas. And it looks... these guys are weird because they're... yeah, they've got some like amphibian characteristics, but they've got a lot of reptile characteristics too. So I think they're normally called reptilomorphs, but I could be out of date with that terminology. I don't really know. But very cool. We had several casts of these guys, the same exact specimen cast at Montana State in the like student fossil labs and stuff. Very cool.
I just wanted her for a size comparison.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Yeah. Looks like a friend, not food. I would agree, Desmodus. I would agree. Yeah. And yeah. And Timber, Carnegie Museum of Natural History. I'd love to, but I don't know if I'm going to make it all the way to the East Coast, even next year. We'll have to see. It'd be great if next year I could spend most of the summer digging. This year I'm going to be digging for maybe about a month, maybe a little bit less. Next summer it'd be great if I could go out and dig the whole summer, but we'll have to see. So yeah, I don't know. That's a long drive to get to Pittsburgh from Oakland. I'm basically turning around from here in the Midwest and going back to Utah after this. So yeah, we'll see though. Who knows what next year will bring. And this is pretty neat. So check this out. I was wondering, what is this? I was kind of leaning against it. But we've got lungfish burrows here from the Permian of Oklahoma. Lungfish live in lakes and streams in tropical regions. They breathe with both gills and lungs and have strong bones in their fins. So these are also sarcopterygian fish. So these are related to your coelacanths like we were talking about. And those are burrows from lungfish. Very cool. These are going to be about, I don't know. They're from the Permian, probably close to 300 million years old. Depends what part of the Permian, I suppose. They're probably closer to, I don't know, 260 million years old, something like that. But very cool. And there are lungfish like that today that still burrow down into the mud in order to escape from drought and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. Cyber Tiger has a question. Do we actually have the Amberin technology to recreate the DNA of a dinosaur? We do not, no. We've been looking for dinosaur DNA for decades at this point, since the 1980s. Not a single trace of any dinosaur DNA so far. And it might just turn out to be impossible. It might be that DNA is just too fragile of a structure in order to last for tens of millions of years. So yeah. Even if we did have a complete genome from a dinosaur, though, there's definitely no guarantee that we could ever clone one. I mean, shoot. There's a million other things that would have to go right before that were to ever happen. So yeah. But yeah. There you go, Trek Nerd. I like that joke. Paleontologist walks into a Cretaceous bar and immediately leaves. Why? He didn't like the Paleocene. You should have said Cenozoic. Cenozoic bar. Oh no, you said post-Cretaceous. Okay. There you go, Trek Nerd. Oh, I like that a lot. That works well. That's a joke I've never heard before. Did you just come up with that? It's good stuff. So let's check these out right here. This might not look like very much to you, but those vertebrae are very distinctive. Who wants to guess what kind of critter this is from? What do you think this is? Let me know. Take a guess. Looking at those vertebrae.
Thank you.
Because it's actually pretty cool.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a hint right there. Yeah. This is a fossil shark. So, shark fossils are very, very common, at least in the form of their teeth. Their teeth fossilized very readily. The rest of their bodies, not so much. Sharks have mostly cartilaginous skeletons, so their bones are mostly made of cartilage. It's a little bit more difficult to preserve. But here, we've got some lovely sharky vertebrae right there, all scattered around. And then some various, what look like skull bones here. And then some teeth. Very cool. Yeah. So number 3 is shark cartilage, so that's right up there. Some of that cartilage kind of squashed. Yeah. And then we've got, I thought I saw some fish vertebrae. There's a fish vert right there. There's some right there too. Fish vertebrae have a very distinctive kind of shape, so they're usually pretty easy to spot. So yeah. He spelled Oreos. Very funny, Arlene. How you doing, by the way? It's good to have you here, Dad. Welcome back. Yeah. Anyway, pretty cool. Fossil shark, Squalocorax falcatus, from northwest Kansas. Pretty cool. Alright, well, here's a stem reptile, kind of like we were talking about with our Seymoria right here. We've got this guy right here. Captorinus belongs to a group commonly known as the stem reptiles. They are believed to be ancestral to all modern reptiles, dinosaurs, birds, and mammals. Is that true? Mammals too? From the early Permian, I thought mammals had already diverged by that point. I don't know. Anyway. Cool stuff. No, actually that might make sense. Although it's from the early Permian, I think we've already got synapsids doing their own thing at that point, so I don't know if we should include mammals with that list. But there are some tracks from a guy like this right here too. Very cool. With only footprints. The Permian is a really interesting time. I don't know enough about it, I'm a Mesozoic guy. But, shout out to the Permian period. Interesting stuff. And here, of course, we've got some of our dinosaurs. It's a Rex and a Trike and Edmontosaurus here. Hey there, how's it going? Before we get to those, though, let's take a look at some of these mammals right here. And is this... Oh, it's an extinct rhinoceros. I always have to pause when I get to something like this. Like, is it a rhinoceros? Is it a Uintathere? Is it something else? This one is a legit rhinoceros, though. Megacerops. Very cool. Check out those big, flat, grazing teeth. Awesome. From the Tertiary of South Dakota. What we would now call, I guess, the Paleogene of South Dakota. Very cool. Check that out. So like most rhinoceros, it's got those eye sockets right toward the front of the head. Really weirdly placed. Yeah, pretty neat. You notice the species name, Copi. That's got to be named after Edward Drinker Cope, famed American paleontologist, one of the main two combatants in the Bone Wars. And then we've got the Atlas and Axis vertebra right here too. This is pretty neat. So you can actually see right there, there's the foramen magnum in the back of the head, where the spinal cord goes into. And then, see how that's all concave right there? That's where the spinal cord goes through. And the atlas vertebra, that's where it fits onto. Pretty neat. It's almost like a trailer ball and a trailer hitch. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Look how robust that is. This is an animal with a big, heavy head, so it needs really robust atlas and axis vertebra there. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. And there you go, Hugin. I have heard that joke before. I like that. And here's Brontotherium. Oh, no, sorry. This is Menops. Menops giganteus. Another extinct rhinoceros. We're calling this one a Titanothere. Very cool. And again, those relatively flat, kind of grazing teeth. They've got some cusps on the back, though. Yeah. Yeah, up on top, too. Interesting. I wonder if this guy would have been more of a browser than Megacerops, like we just saw. Very cool. And then there's Brontotherium right there, a fleshed out model. Really neat. Cool stuff. There's the back of the skull right there, and you can see how it's kind of squashed through diagenesis. Overlying rocks would have deformed it a bit after it was buried. Very cool. Yeah. Neat stuff. Neat stuff. Let's make sure this is still charging. Yeah, we're good. And no, these are not from the Eocene. The Eocene, I think, I don't think rhinoceros evolved until later on in the Cenozoic. Anything in the Eocene that looks like a rhinoceros would probably be a Uintathere or something like that. Yeah, these guys are from later on. They're probably, I don't know, Miocene or something like that, I would guess. I don't actually know. I don't work on Cenozoic stuff. Yeah, I don't think true rhinos actually show up until later on in the Age of Mammals. Yeah. I've got this really lovely Brontothere right here, too. Very cool. Oh, and we keep running into this guy, Hoplophonius. This is another one of those kind of saber-toothed false cats. This is an imravid, so it's not actually related to cats. But it does still have those saber fangs. It shows that it's something that, if given the chance, predatory mammals will just evolve those again and again and again. I think saber fangs like that, those hypertrophied canines have evolved probably at least half a dozen, maybe even a dozen times within mammalia during the Cenozoic era. Very cool. Yeah. Pretty neat. And you see how different the hands and feet look than in a cat. Almost reminiscent of an opossum or something like that. Got those weird looking digits. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Yeah. Awesome Halloween decor. There you go. And then Mesohippus. There's an early three-toed horse, and you can see those three toes right there. So far on this trip, we've talked all about artiodactyls and perissodactyls, the respectively even-toed and odd-toed mammals. Horses are odd-toed mammals, perissodactyls. They started off with 5 toes, and then they go down to 3, and then today, horses only have 1. 1 digit on each hand and foot. But obviously didn't start off that way. They also didn't start off as large as they are today. Horses started off pretty small. And Mesohippus, it's one of these ones that's not even the smallest. The name means medium horse, because it's, I don't know, starting to get up there in size. But modern horses that we have today are the largest that horses have ever been, as far as I know. Especially some domestic ones, like big old draft horses and stuff. They're crazy big. Yeah. Cool stuff. And up there we've got a lovely ichthyosaur. Is that like Stenopterygius, maybe? Looks like a cast right there. All these beautiful ocean-going reptiles. This one's, if it is Stenopterygius, I think that's late Jurassic. Yeah, very cool. Neat stuff. And you can look at the paddles on this critter. Look at all those tiny little bones toward the end. Those are modified phalanges, which is pretty neat to think about. Those are finger bones that, over tens of millions of years, were modified into kind of a perfect paddle to help the animal steer its way through the water. Its tail would have been its primary means of propulsion, swishing its tail from side to side, sculling through the water. And then those paddles there, I think, are probably mostly for steering. Very cool, kind of like a rudder.
Hello.
The creature we will be examining is a paleontologist.
Let's take a look at this display over here. Whatever happened to Brontosaurus? This is a cool display. I like this. That's based on that classic Charles R. Knight painting of the swamp-bound Brontosaurus. Yeah, very cool. These are probably like early display pieces from the museum that are still here, but now the focus is on how much things have changed since then. I think it's neat when a museum can still have some of their early display pieces, but use them for a different purpose,
A real dinosaur?
Oh, and very cool. Holy moly. We talked all about Sinclair Dino Land a few months ago. Who was there for that stream? This is one of only 5 of these hatching Brontosaurus egg models that were made for the Sinclair Oil Corporation's Dino Land exhibit at the 1964 to 1965 New York World's Fair. Sauropod dinosaurs actually had much smaller eggs than this. You can see one of their fossil eggs on display to the left. Right there, yeah. Yeah. That's funny, if you were to try and make an egg this big in life, it probably wouldn't work. The largest eggs that we have from any critter are from the elephant bird, big flightless bird that just went extinct a few thousand years ago, probably due to human overhunting. But their eggs are maybe about the size of a soccer ball. This is bigger than that. Eggs can't really get that big on land as far as we know. So that's pretty cool. A Cretaceous sauropod egg from Hubei province in China. A patasaur toe claw, very cool. Yeah, pretty neat. Pretty awesome. Can we get some Apatosaurus emotes going in the chat right now? Yeah. Yeah. And your mom worked at that World's Fair? Pretty cool, Kennedy. Pretty cool. Here, let me catch up. I think I missed something. Oh, we had a raid. Well, thank you. Spudley, thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate that. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Shoot. If it is your first time here, anybody who's watching, welcome. And allow me to introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. Right now is an exciting time, because this summer I'm out on this big road trip, going across the United States, visiting different museums, field sites, talking to other paleontologists, and streaming whenever I can. So today we are at the University of Wisconsin Museum of Geology in Madison, Wisconsin. and should have some of the cool fossil displays here. So if anybody has any questions, you let me know, okay? Spudley, thank you again for the magnificent raid. Really appreciate that. And if anybody's got any questions, don't be shy. You know, that's what I'm here for. So yeah.
You're smart.
Desmona says, I see a pterosaur up there.
Do a research on that, Oliver. I never.
There is a pterosaur up there. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Looks like Pteranodon.
On the contrary, we
Very cool.
stretch our understanding to try and take in the universe.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah. We just saw this T-Rex here yesterday. This is a cast of Stan, the T-Rex. It's very cool that we get to see that up close and personal. Poor guy, all his teeth are yanked out of his head. I guess to make him look longer, but yeah, very cool. Tyrannosaurus. Oh, you're good. Actually, I had a question real quick. Is Scott Hartman in today by any chance? Oh. No worries. Yeah, thanks. Thought I'd ask, you know? Yeah. And those twofers, I know, right? If they're going to make a cast of this, why not just to have the teeth be as they would be in life, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I guess they thought it would look more scarier if they pulled the teeth out. That's not this museum's fault. That's the Black Hills Institute, this commercial operation that actually ended up selling this dinosaur. So unfortunately, it is no longer available for study. Yeah.
Almost all
and Kodali, thank you for reposting that from Andrew Holding. How much do we know about dinosaur genomes? Basically nothing. Except what we can glean from birds. We don't have any dinosaur DNA or anything from the Mesozoic. Doesn't seem like DNA actually lasts that long. It's much more fragile than that. It won't stick around for tens of millions of years. So yeah. We can look at bird genomes for clues about dinosaurs, but yeah, if you want to know specifics about the genome of, say, maybe Edmontosaurus behind me here,
If the situation called for
we don't have any direct evidence of that kind of thing, unfortunately.
Which projected from his body armor.
But yeah. Anyway. Take a look at some of these displays. Very cool. Oh, I love these fleshed out models here. That's really nice. We've got Pteranodon. Very cool. Platycarpus. Very cool. These critters are, of course, right there and up there. Pretty neat. Yeah. Protoceratops. Avaceratops. It really doesn't get enough attention. I don't know. Avaceratops, a juvenile animal. You can tell it's a juvenile, but people don't always admit that. And an allosaur, very cool. Neat stuff. We've got some replicas of a Pterodactylus and Mesosaurus. Pterodactylus, that's where the name pterodactyl comes from. The name means wing finger. And that is probably the most famous specimen right there. You see casts of this in museums all around the world. I could probably even 3D print myself one of those if I wanted to. I bet you there's scans available online. Very cool. Oh, and the ceratopsian I just mentioned. Yeah, science. That's Avaceratops right there. And I've seen the original it's in Harlowton, Montana, right toward the center of the state. Avaceratops. I think it was named by Peter Dodson back in the 80s. It's a weirdo thing from the I think it's from the Campanian of Montana, but that critter is a juvenile. It's not it's not full grown. It was described as being an adult specimen, I think, but I don't think it is. You can look it up on Wikipedia. Avaceratops. Avaceratops. Right there. Very cool. And then, you know this guy, everybody. Seen this in my office. Deinonychus, right there. Very, very cool. Yeah. So again, the velociraptor from Jurassic Park is actually this critter, Deinonychus. That's why it's got that shape of a head. That's why it's as large as it is, although it's still a little bit too large in the movies. But yeah. Pretty neat. Yeah, it's the same one that I have in my office back home. Very cool. And yeah, there you go. That's the right command. Thank you, Claire. The rotating skull one. That's this critter right here. Pretty neat. Yeah. And look at that Alzatosaurus, which is now, I think, called Styxosaurus or something, or I forget. But that is an elasmosaur, and look at those very cool interlocking teeth. So this critter is not a dinosaur here. This is an elasmosaur, so one of these very long-necked, four-flippered ocean reptiles that lived at the same time as the dinosaurs. While dinosaurs were doing their thing on land, these guys were in the oceans, catching fishes and squid with those very cool interlocking teeth. So the skull itself on this guy is actually very small compared to its body. Shoot, if this animal were alive right now, and, you know, here in the building, its head would be here, its neck would stretch all the way out, probably close to the end of these cabinets, and its body might start somewhere near that wall. It's, a pretty crazy critter. Really, really neat. I love elasmosaurs so much. They're really neat. Yeah, and here's Pachycephalosaurus, exactly. Good spot there, Smorphosaurus. Yeah. Pachycephalosaurus. That beautiful dome on its head. So you might imagine that this would have housed a really big brain on this animal. Not the case. All of that is just solid bone right there. Not the most solid of solid bone. Like, it's still kind of spongy because this dome grew really quickly as the animal matured. It's basically just inflates like that. It's still solid, but it's kind of spongy solid. You know? It's not like it's hollow. Very cool. Those spikes at the front of the nose, on the back of the head. The spikes are really interesting too, especially on the back of the head, because when the animal is about, I don't know, when it's a subadult, the spikes are really long, and then later they actually resorb, it seems. They get shorter and shorter. And, yeah, it's fascinating stuff. A lot of these dinosaurs kind of shape-shifted through their lives, through their ontogeny. So during an individual dinosaur's life like this, their skull would change shape and do all kinds of weird and crazy things. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then, look, we've got some hadrosaur teeth right there. Bit of a dental battery. Very cool. So these guys are just constantly replacing their teeth all the time. This is a tooth set from that kind of critter, basically, from a duck-billed dinosaur. So yeah. Alright, let's go back over here real quick. We'll kind of let them do their thing. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. And yeah, anyway. Reminds you of vulture skulls. Interesting, Cassie Cans. Interesting thought. Let's just admire this Edmontosaurus here real quick. So this is one of your classic duck-billed dinosaurs. I've dug up Edmontosaurus fossils in the Hell Creek. So this is one of the very last of the duck-billed dinosaurs. It is the last of the duck-billed dinosaurs, I suppose. These guys were here when the big one hit, when that asteroid impacts Earth 66 million years ago. These guys are walking around. the same time as T-Rex and Triceratops. And Edmontosaurus here is actually the very largest dinosaur in the Hell Creek Formation. It gets even bigger than T-Rex. This one here is not quite full grown. You can tell by the shape of its head. As they mature, like the head lengthens and then it kind of, the beak kind of splays outward even further, kind of flattens. And to what we used to call Anatotitan. It turns out Anatotitan and Edmontosaurus are the same animal, it seems. So Edmontosaurus basically grows into Anatotitan. They're the same critter, Anatotitan is just a very large, mature Edmontosaurus. That's the idea, at least. I don't know if that's ever actually been published on, but that's the general consensus nowadays. Check that out. Look at these kind of hoof-like forelimbs here. Very cool.
Well, you guys, that's fossil poop.
Those big hoof-like claws. It's so cool looking at their metatarsals and how chonky they get. Very cool. So these look... Some of these look like they might be the original bone. The way that they're filled in with this other material right here. Take a look at that tibia right there.
America loses them.
See that? See how it's got that like water putty type material inside? We should look at the sign and see if this is original, Yeah, shoot. There we go. Edmontosaurus is hadrosaur. This is a composite skeleton, meaning that it contains bones of multiple individuals. Its bones were found at a site that contained the remains of a herd representing hundreds of individuals. Completed in 1991, the skeleton was the very first dinosaur to be displayed in Wisconsin. Very cool. Buddy, you're looking at the first dinosaur displayed in Wisconsin. First actual dinosaur skeleton, I presume. But yeah. Very cool. And thank you, Zoe, for the 4 months. Really appreciate that. Welcome back. It's great to see you. Holy cow. What an awesome critter. And yeah, that is a genuine femur right there. That's the real fossil bone. So this was a common practice back in the day. I'm surprised they continued this into the 90s. But to take multiple individuals and take bits and pieces from each of them in order to build a complete skeleton. That's what we call a composite. That's what we have right here. And yeah, here's the scapula. This is actually pretty nice. You can see how most of that is sculpted, but then there's bits of actual fossil bone in there too. So see the bits of original bone in there? And then the rest of it is sculpted, and they've kind of carved some striations or cracks into it to make it kind of blend in. Pretty cool. Yeah. An intraspecies chimera, if you will. There you go, Javasaurus. Yeah, I like that. Jacob Neon, the proportions must be all over the place. I think they kind of are. I mean, the hind limbs on this critter are huge. Look at the size of... In fact, those femurs might even be 2 different sizes. Yeah, those hind limbs look very, very large compared to these forelimbs. But yeah, I don't know. Also, look at how narrow the chest is. The chest shouldn't actually be this narrow in real life. As far as I know. But really cool. And then I assume the skull, that's got to be... I don't think there's any original material in there. At best, that's probably a cast. It's kind of rare to put an actual fossil dinosaur skull on the skeleton like that. Because it's so heavy, especially on a critter like this. Or like Sue at the Field Museum in Chicago. What you're looking at when you see Sue, that's mostly the real fossil bone there. But, except for her head. Her head, the skull, is a cast. So yeah. And you can see the actual fossil skull in a different part of display. I think they used to have it like up on a balcony, kind of overlooking her skeleton. Also, Sue's skull is kind of squashed, so they kind of, I guess, scanned her skull, unsquashed it in the computer, and then they're able to generate a replica from that. So yeah, so I doubt this is the actual fossil skull for this Edmontosaurus here. It doesn't really make sense to have that there. Especially with that, with that tiny little support up there. Yeah, that's going to be a cast. Pretty cool. It's a lovely, lovely mount. You've got that graceful tail held out backwards for balance. There we go, yeah. Yeah. And there you go, Jody Fish. The posture hides a variety of misstuff. Maybe. That's my guess, yeah. Nafilo Horace says, did an adult T-Rex need to hunt in packs, considering the fact that it was the biggest predator in North America in the late Cretaceous? Did it need to hunt in packs? I don't know, probably not. I'm not sure if adult T-Rex would even need to hunt much at all. I don't know, it depends on a lot of things.
A real mean kid.
I don't know. That's a difficult question to answer. We don't really have
He was the terror of his neighborhood.
enough information, I suppose, to say, like, yes, it needed to hunt packs, or no, it didn't. It's a good question. Yeah. Before we move on, I don't want to neglect our wonderful first bird here, Archaeopteryx. This actually looks a little bit bigger than mine in my office. Maybe I printed mine a tad bit too small. But no, actually it's about the same size. Yeah. You've seen this specimen a million times, our regulars. That's the Berlin specimen of Archaeopteryx right there. Just gorgeous. Yeah. Although, for being honest, the paint job on mine is better. Very cool. Very, very cool. Lovely Jurassic bird there. Everybody loves Archaeopteryx. Yeah. And there you go, bouncing cow, sure. Yeah, at least the Field Museum owns Sue. Yeah, Golganek, although it cost them $8 million to get her. I don't know. Sue, that name is almost a dirty word in dinosaur paleontology, because that's what opened the floodgates for the commercial dinosaur market back in the 90s. Yeah. Anyway, up here, we've got a mosasaur. And this is what, Platycarpus, I think? That's what the sign says. Another one of these lovely mosasaurs. Look at that. That long, sinuous tail that used for propulsion. That's how it propelled itself through the water. And those paddles there, probably mostly for steering. Maybe also kind of to use as diving planes, like on a submarine. Very cool. Awesome Cretaceous ocean-going lizard. And does this one have the palatine teeth in it? It does. It has some of those palatine teeth. If you look straight up there, it's got teeth on the roof of its mouth, kind of toward the back of the skull. You see them there? There. I should have brought my laser pointer so I could point them out. Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah. And there you go, Caravan. Yeah, it is an ironic name. You're right. Named after Susan Hendrickson, though, who's the woman who found Sue. I don't know what's going on with that wonky Triceratops skull back there. Big parts that are sculpted. This is like a subadult skull that they've... Yeah, like the whole front of the beak. See how smooth that is? That's all been sculpted. Most of the maxilla, parts of the lower jaw, kind of back behind the horns. This horn looks like it's entirely sculpted. That one's partly real. You can tell that this is not a fully mature individual by any stretch, because those epis on there are not yet fully fused on. They still look kind of like triangular and pointy, and when the animal is fully mature, they kind of flatten out, and then they squish themselves onto the perimeter of the frill, onto those squamosal and parietal bones. Very cool. But let's look at it from the front. It definitely looks wonky from the front. Right there. Yeah. But this is common practice back in the day to, like, I don't know, mix plaster in with your actual fossil bone in order to make a nice, pretty display specimen. We don't really do that kind of thing today. Yeah, very cool. And Hugin, Pyroraptor. Yeah, that's not real Hugin. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. And Museum Field Expedition to Montana. That's nice. You know, Denver Fowler used to say, and he's mostly right, like, oh, every museum in the world has a Triceratops. And yeah, this museum has one. That is kind of one of the things. Triceratops is such a common animal, especially in Montana, that a lot of museums will have one. And shoot, how many museums have had Triceratops specimens so far on this trip? We've had the museum in Rapid City. We've had this museum. Probably missing a few, but we will see many, many more throughout the summer, I think. Yeah. Yeah. We'll certainly see some tomorrow, I predict. And here is a lovely mastodon. You know how I can tell that this is a mastodon and not a mammoth just at a glance? Even though they are both big, extinct elephant relatives. They've got very different looking teeth. Let me extend the camera so you can see the teeth on this critter. There we go. See that right there? Those are classic mastodon teeth. They've got those long cusps on them. On a mammoth, mammoths have much more flat, kind of ridged teeth. These guys have got those cool cusps, almost like on a human molar, you know? Got a lot of topography on them. Right here. Very cool. So, a mastodon, whereas mammoths probably lived mostly out on the plains, mostly grazing, eating grass and stuff like that. Mastodons are probably more forest dwellers, eating kind of more leafy greens, bushes and stuff like that. Kind of like the difference between a cow and a deer. In this analogy, a mammoth would be like a cow, a mastodon would be like a deer. Kind of more browsy rather than grazy, if that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah. Hang on a sec. Somebody had a question about Eotriceratops? Oh, Norphila, what about Eotriceratops? How many museums have this? I think there's only like one museum that has any Eotriceratops. Or no, maybe I'm thinking of Ohoceratops. Yeah, Eotriceratops is it's not nearly as common. It's from earlier than Triceratops, obviously. It's not from the Hell Creek Formation. There might only be one specimen of Eotriceratops. I'm not actually sure. Somebody can look it up. But we might only have one specimen of Eotriceratops. I wouldn't be shocked if that were the case. Yeah, most dinosaurs are known from only one specimen, and usually only a handful of bones. Triceratops is a big exception there, because this critter, yeah, I don't know, it's very common. We've got a lot of territory to cover that has lots of Triceratops fossils in it. It was also just a very common dinosaur when it lived. Might be, I don't know, Triceratops is the only ceratopsian the only ceratopsid from the Hell Creek as far as we know. Unless you count Torosaurus as a separate genus, which I don't. But yeah. In theory, that T-Rex could be a boy named Sue. Sure, Kennedy, yeah. Yeah, we don't actually know the sex of Sue, if it was male or female. So yeah, Sue could very well be a boy, yeah. Anyway, let's gawk for a second at this weirdo mastodon skeleton. I say weird because I work on dinosaurs, and any big mammal skeleton just looks inherently weird to me. It's like, what's going on with those legs? What? Yeah, big goofy knees on it. Look at those hips. I don't know. Yeah. They're cool though, you know. You gotta give props to your large mammals. They're neat. They're neat critters. Yeah. So yeah. Wait, and Claire Burr, is it your birthday? Holy cow, Claire. Happy birthday to you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And again, thank you, Claire, for everything that you do. You know how much you mean to this community. I know you know that, but I still like to say it anyway. Thank you so much, Claire, and happy birthday. I hope this next trip around the sun is your best one yet. Yeah, and may they continue to get better and better. Wonderful. Happy birthday, Claire. And how better to celebrate your birthday than with this goofy elephant relative, Dinotherium. Check that out. These big old chin tusks on this critter. No, this is not upside down. Yes, you are looking at it correctly. Do not adjust your monitor right now. Yeah, big old chin tusks on this crazy critter. So the eye sockets would be up there. That's the lower jaw. Those are the teeth, obviously. The trunk would come down right here. But what are they doing with that? Shoot. So there is a painting showing what it may have looked like in life. Pretty old painting. Very cool. Yeah. Pretty neat. Its most characteristic feature is the lower jaw, now you think? Which turns downward and carries two short and curved tusks. The tusks enable the animal to dig into the ground and pull up roots and plants. Well, okay. Alright, I guess that makes sense. So, I don't know, it's kind of walrus-like in a way, but walruses don't actually use their tusks for digging. These guys, I suppose, did. Yeah. Pretty neat. Yeah. Dinotherium became common in Eastern Europe and Western Asia during the later part of the Miocene, some 20 million years ago. Then died out in those regions, but survived well into the Pleistocene in tropical Africa. I didn't know that. I didn't know Dinotherium survived that long in Africa. Probably got multiple species of this critter evolving through time. Pretty neat. Yeah. Got a glyptodont right there, but we'll get to him in a minute. Let's check out... very cool. Little proto-mammal there, Thrinaxodon. One of the first critters that had whiskers, as far as we can tell. There's a Dicynodont right there. These are from before the dinosaurs. Very cool. And that's an original Dicynodont skull right there, on loan from the Field Museum. It's been on loan since 1976. It's a more or less permanent loan. Pretty cool. Yeah. And all kinds of other mammal-y guys here too. There's an Oreodon. Very cool. What was it that the sign said at the Museum of Minneapolis? What's in the middle of an Oreodont? Meat. These were like very common prey animals. The Oligocene of North America. Yeah, Maricoidodon, we saw one of these guys at that museum in Minneapolis too. There's a Hyenodon in front of the skull. You can see those teeth up close. Very cool. Check those out. Those big meat shearing teeth. And Urinodelphis. This is a Miocene dolphin right here. Check that out. Look at how slender those skull bones are toward the end. This reminds me of like a modern, I guess like a modern bottlenose dolphin or something like that. It doesn't have the same crazy, like, melon skull thing, like with the Ganges River dolphin. Very cool. This is from Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, from the Miocene. Urinodelphis. So, true-nosed dolphin. And Squalodon. Oh, very cool. Check this out. I love the teeth on these guys. Look at those big, gnarly, meat-cutting teeth. Look at how big the serrations are on them. Those big old tentacles. Pretty nuts. That is awesome. Yeah. Yeah. They are sharky teeth, aren't they, Claire? Very cool. Squalodon, and that would from a relative of one of these guys, Zweigledon. Zweigledon is an old name for Basilosaurus, which is not a dinosaur, it's not even a reptile, it's an ancient whale. It looks kind of like that. Very cool. Similar teeth. Yeah. Pretty neat. And then, here is a lovely example of the difference between mastodon and mammoth teeth, like I was telling you about. Let's take a look. So right there is a mastodon tooth, Mammut americanum. And it gets confusing because mammut sounds like mammoth, but that's actually the genus name for a mastodon. So I've got these high cusps, and as they wear down, they end up, looking like that. It's a beautiful one, holy cow. And then mammoth teeth, by contrast, don't have those big cusps. They don't look like human molars. They look like this. They've got those, they're much more flat, and they've got those kind of ridges. So that is the tooth of a mammoth. So, grazer, browser, grazer, browser, browser, grazer, browser, grazer, grazer. You got it? Yeah. Isn't that cool, Zico? Yeah. So even though the skeletons of a mammoth and a mastodon, to somebody like me, they look pretty similar to one another, and in life they might have looked fairly similar too, they've got totally different teeth. So I mean, there's a mastodon skeleton. Doesn't look too different from like a modern elephant skeleton, at least to my untrained eyes. I don't work on proboscideans. But their teeth are wildly different. There and there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. And Daikaiju says mastodons are also more robust. I mean, they're shorter. They've got shorter limbs, I suppose. Yeah. And they don't have the like hump that mammoths have along their back like this. Mastodons had more of kind of a straight back. Yeah. We've got an entelodont right here, one of these classic hell pigs. And here's one being eaten by some hyena-looking critters. Maybe they're supposed to be hyenodon. But yeah, very cool. And again, look at those big old cheek flanges. It's neat to see it from this angle. Check that out. Very, very cool. This is a relative of pigs. It's not a true pig itself. It's got some pretty gnarly tusks on it, but these guys are probably mostly plant eaters from what I've read. I don't know. Pretty neat. And I like this. This is a neat kind of display. It's with these kind of like big, thick cardstock cutouts to show the silhouette of the skeleton, and then you've got the actual fossil bones in there. And you can see here the bits that have been filled in order to make a nice, clean display specimen. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Very cool. And there's some fossil poops containing bone fragments from some sort of carnivorous mammal from the Oligocene. Cool stuff. Very neat. And I almost forgot. We've got our pteranodon over here too. We should check him out. Yeah. And yes, it was from the Oligocene, Narphila, yeah. So back to the Cretaceous period here, we've got one of everybody's favorite flying reptiles, pteranodon. And this is interesting because it's got a pretty big rib cage. I guess it's a larger specimen than the one that we have at Berkeley. But check that out. And I'd like to point out the fingers on this critter. Like we saw at the museum in Minneapolis. These guys have also got that super long finger there that forms most of the wing membrane. And then, I don't know what's going on with those fingers going towards the medius malleolus, but whatever. That's the hand right there. And then the end of the wing, that's the fourth finger. That's this finger right here, the ring finger that forms the wing membrane. Got that big old skull, so much bigger than the little body. Very cool. So pterosaurs like this, I know I've said this a million times, but I'm going to say it again because it's important. These guys are not dinosaurs. Pterosaurs are very close to dinosaurs, but they branch off just before the first dinosaurs evolved. So those guys are not dinosaurs. They're from a different branch on the reptile family tree. A branch very close to dinosaurs, but they're not actually dinosaurs. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, and tiny little skinny legs on that barnacle bum. Yeah. And a little wimpy tiny little tail there too. Yeah. Oh, and then, how could I miss this critter? Glyptodon. Glyptodon reticulatus. Very cool. So this is basically a giant armadillo. I think they are actually related to, they might even be within the armadillo family. But glyptodonts like this are from the age of mammals. I think the last of them only died out a few thousand years ago. In fact, yeah, glyptodonts went extinct at the end of the Ice Age in the Pleistocene, about 11,700 years ago. This replica, purchased by the museum in 1890, was made from genuine fossils found in Pleistocene age rocks in Argentina. The original skeleton is now in a museum in Dijon, France. Oh, Chanté. Huh. Very cool. And look at that incredibly weird skull. These guys are so strange. These weird, like, jugal flange things. That orbit right there, so that's the eye socket. Here's the nose. There's the lower jaw. Very flat, nondescript teeth, which is kind of characteristic of mammals like this, xenarthran mammals. Tend not to have very much going on with their teeth, as far as I know. And then there's that carapace, made of all of these osteoderms, these bones in the skin, and then take a look at that tail. Probably would have been a pretty formidable weapon. You would not want to get hit in the shins with that. That would be, your walking days would be over. Check that out. Very impressive. How cool is this? Super neat. Yeah. Yeah. And Glyptodon was related to Doedicarus. Yeah, Narphila, those are both Glyptodonts. Yeah. Doedicarus might actually be the ancestor of Glyptodon. I don't know. Somebody can look it up. Not sure. I don't work on these guys. But what a beautiful... This, of course, obviously is my favorite room in the museum. It's got the dinosaurs. Like our Edmontosaurus, T-Rex, and Triceratops, Pachycephalosaurus, and Deinonychus over there. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. And that's about all that we've got here. Again, not the biggest museum, not the flashiest, not the most up-to-date, but a lovely campus museum. And I was so happy to be able to share it with you. Yeah, holy cow. So let's go over here and sign off right here in front of our Edmontosaurus. Yeah, thank you, everybody, for helping make this another wonderful stream. Really appreciate you, and I hope you had a good time. Hope you learned something today. Let's go ahead and see who else is on Twitch right now. And yeah, and I like Wisconsin a lot, Schmazonium. Yeah, I've spent some time here before. My college girlfriend was from Wisconsin. So yeah, spent some time in Dane County before. All right. Let's see who else is live. Balloon Animals by chat vote. We might go see... Oh, you know what? No, we're going to go raid Science Streams. That's what we're going to do. There we go. And we will say hello to Balint and co. So get ready to say hello to another scientist, everybody. Science _ streams. There we go. Excellent. I think Balint and maybe Lita too might be looking at something to do with a woolly mammoth. So yeah, that's going to be cool. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, enjoying this beautiful museum with me. Hope you had a great time. I know I did. I'll be streaming again tomorrow. With any luck, going to be doing a stream from the Burpee Museum in Rockford, Illinois, seeing a whole bunch of Hell Creek dinosaurs, and I think some Jurassic ones too. I think they've got some from Hanksville in Utah. I know they have had a quarry there for a long time, so we'll see some Jurassic dinosaurs too. Let's hope. Anyway, till then, everybody, you take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for all of your ongoing support, your financial support, your viewership, your questions, your enthusiasm. I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. All right, everybody. Until then, let's go see what Science Streams is up to. All right, let's check him out. See you tomorrow, everybody. There we go.
Whoa! Raiders!